The assignment was meant to be an insult. Everyone in the Xener Relations Corps knew it. When the list was posted, the name of the human, Leo, was paired with a designation from a species so newly contacted they were only known by a catalog number 881C. They were called the Veil. The common room chatter died for a moment as he read it, then resumed with a murmur of pitying glances. The Veil were small, delicate bipeds with skin of soft gray and large, luminous eyes. They communicated in a whispery, sub-vocal language our translators only partially parsed. Their technology was rudimentary, their homeworld resource poor. In the grand, ambitious hierarchy of the Galactic Accord, they were considered passive, simple, and ultimately worthless. To be assigned a Veil partner was a career graveyard. It meant the brass saw you as a terminal mediocrity, fit only for harmless. Observational duty. Leo felt the sting, but he was a practical man. He reported to the partnership bay at the appointed time, his uniform crisp, his expression neutral. The other pairs were impressive. A hulking Tauran with its human engineer, a sleek Xi'an diplomat paired with a linguist. And then there was his station. The Veil stood by the viewport, looking out at the stars. She was petite, barely reaching his shoulder. Her form was draped in a simple gray tunic. Her hair, if it was hair, was a silvery short cap. She turned as he approached, and he saw her face fully. Her features were placid, her large, dark eyes unreadable. The standard translator box on her belt emitted a soft, toneless phrase. Designation, partner, greeting. "Hello," Leo said, offering a small, professional smile. "I am Leo. I will be your partner." She inclined her head. The translator produced, acknowledged, Leo. There was no warmth, no curiosity. It was like greeting a sophisticated, but muted, simulation. The first weeks were exactly as tedious as predicted. Their mission was a survey of a lush, uninhabited planet in a fringe system. Their job was to catalog flora and fauna. Leo performed his duties with methodical care. His partner, whom he had started to think of simply as V, followed silently. She would point at times with a slender finger, and her translator would state a flat fact. Photosynthetic variants detected. Or water source is mineral-rich. She never smiled. None of the Veil did. The official brief stated their facial musculature was minimal and their emotional range, by galactic standards, was supremely subdued. They did not laugh, they did not cry, they did not show anger. They simply were. It made interaction profoundly lonely. The change happened on the 37th day. They were by a crystal-clear stream, taking samples. A small, furry creature, akin to a six-legged otter, was playfully chasing bioluminescent insects near the water's edge. Leo watched it, momentarily forgetting his disappointment. The creature tumbled over itself in a comical roll, and he let out a short, genuine laugh. He glanced at V. She was staring at the creature, her head tilted. Then, slowly, something shifted on her face. The corners of her small mouth did not curve upwards, not in a human way. But her luminous eyes seemed to soften, to brighten. A subtle crinkle appeared at their edges. Her entire placid demeanor warmed, like a sunbeam breaking through a thin cloud. The translator at her belt, which usually only spoke in declarative statements, emitted a soft, unfamiliar sound. It was a gentle chime, like two tiny bells touching. Leo froze. He had never seen anything like it on a Veil. It was not a human smile, but it was unmistakable. It was a response. It meant something. "You see it too," he said softly, not asking. "The joy of it." V turned her gaze from the creature to him. She did not nod, but she held his eyes, and that soft, crinkled warmth remained for a full 3 seconds before her face settled back into its neutral state. The translator chimed once more, quietly, From that moment, Leo began to watch her differently. He stopped seeing her as a worthless assignment and started seeing her as a puzzle. He noticed the tiny nuances. The slight tilt of her head when she was curious. The almost imperceptible slowing of her breathing when she was calm and content. The way her fingers would trace a leaf's vein with a delicacy that spoke of deep appreciation. And very rarely, that smile. It would appear at the most unexpected moments. A sunset of violent purple and orange. The intricate pattern of a spider's web beaded with dew. The successful solution to a minor logistical problem with their equipment. He began to talk to her, not just give instructions. He described human concepts like humor and nostalgia. He told her about Earth's oceans and forests. He knew the translator was only conveying a fraction, but he continued. And she listened. Her responses through the translator became slightly more varied. Not just acknowledged, but sometimes pattern understood or concept is noted. Their quiet routine was shattered during a routine perimeter check. A seismic event, unexpected and violent, rocked the region. It was not natural. The ground split, and from a newly formed ravine, a scourge emerged. They were native predators, long, serpentine things with armored plating and gnashing maw teeth. They were blind, hunting by vibration, and the quake had driven them to the surface in a frenzy. One erupted from the soil, 10 meters from Leo. He fired his plasma cutter, searing its hide, but 2 more burst forth behind V. The standard issue sidearm on her belt was a pathetic tool. A low-intensity stunner meant for tiny pests. It was a token weapon, given because protocol required it, not because anyone expected a Veil to use it. Leo shouted, diving to put himself between her and the nearest creature. He fired again, but a second one lunged at his flank. He was going to be overwhelmed. Then he heard it. Not the whisper of her translator, but a series of rapid, clicking, sub-vocal sounds from V herself. It was a complex, rhythmic cascade. At the same time, her hands moved, not for her useless weapon, but to the small environmental scanner on her wrist. Her fingers flew over its interface with a speed and precision that stunned him. The scanner was not a weapon, but it was a sophisticated emitter of various energies. She modulated it, her calm absolute, her face a mask of intense focus. She emitted a piercing, targeted sonic frequency directly into the soil. The effect was immediate. The predatory worms, hypersensitive to vibration, recoiled as if struck. Their coordinated attack dissolved into pained, writhing confusion. She adjusted the frequency, sweeping the scanner, and drove them back toward the ravine, her small form the epicenter of a deterrent field of precise. Painful noise. In less than a minute, the threat was over. The worms retreated into the deep. The silence that followed was deafening. Leo, breathing heavily, weapon still raised, turned to look at his partner. V lowered her wrist. She looked at him, her large eyes taking in his stance, his adrenaline, the fading panic. And then she did it. That smile. It was clearer now, more defined. The warmth in her eyes was profound, a deep, intelligent empathy. The translator chimed its soft, gentle bell tone. Leo slowly holstered his weapon. That was not in the brief, he said, his voice hushed. The Veil are not supposed to be able to do that. They are supposed to be passive. V approached him. She looked up, and for the first time, she reached out. Her small gray hand touched his arm, a gesture of reassurance. The translator spoke, but the words were different. They were not flat. They carried a cadence. The brief is incomplete. We observe. We understand. Reaction is not always optimal. Sometimes quiet understanding is better. Your technology. Leo gestured to the scanner. They said it was basic. Simplicity is a choice, the translator conveyed. A complex tool used simply is elegant. A simple tool used with complex understanding is powerful. The truth unfolded over the next days, not in a flood, but in a quiet, steady stream. The Veil were not primitive. They were profound. Their culture was built not on conquest or accumulation, but on deep systemic understanding. They did not build starships because they preferred to study them. They did not declare war because they mastered conflict resolution before it began. Their whispery language was not simple. It was layered with contextual meaning and harmonic subtext our translators could only hint at. That smile, it was not an emotional outburst. It was a conscious, communicated recognition of a beautiful pattern, a harmonic truth in the chaos of existence. It was their highest compliment. On their return to the station, the pitying looks awaited. In the debriefing room, the overseer, a blustery Tauran liaison, skimmed Leo's report. Uneventful as expected. Standard survey data. Your next assignment will be... There is an addendum, Leo said, standing straight. He placed the data chip on the desk. Contained within is an analysis of the predatory life form's behavior with a field-tested, non-lethal deterrent frequency. Also, a preliminary sociological model predicting the stability of the Galactic Accord's next 3 expansion sectors, with identified points of potential conflict and resolutions. The Tauran blinked. This is advanced work. This is not from a standard survey. It is, Leo said. He glanced at V, who stood quietly beside him, her hands folded. She looked at the Tauran, and her face was, as ever, placid. My partner observed. She understood. She provided the insight. The Veil do not shout their worth. You have to be quiet enough to hear it. The Tauran looked skeptical, but he slotted the chip. Data began to stream. His expression changed from doubt to confusion, then to dawning, stunned realization. He looked from the screens to the small gray A.